Do you have any recommendations based on how I might implement this with my M9 that might optimize it further than what I've already explained?
If you can't go 100% wet, you are going to run into some limitations on that. And there's one thing that should be mentioned when you're talking about any kind of parallel setup with digital effects, and that is digital effects have latency. The signal comes in the input, and a couple of milliseconds later, it comes out the output. Even if it's a digital dry signal, even the dry signal comes out a little bit later. And in many cases, that just doesn't matter at all, and it's all fine. But if you start doing stuff like this, where you're splitting the analog signal and then kind of going around the pedal and setting up parallel, like we've been talking about here, and then mixing it back in with the output of the M9, what you have is a dry signal and then a dry signal that's coming in a few milliseconds later than the other dry signal. And what does that do? That's a flanger. So you can actually get a little bit of flanging out of it
for free.
For free. Yes. Whether you like it or
to
not.
Clarify, free flanging.
And so now, if you're doing time-based effects like delay, reverb, or chorus, it doesn't matter because you're delaying it even more. If you're doing a 400 millisecond delay, it doesn't matter whether it's like 400 milliseconds or 402 coming out of there. And so that's fine. I think it might have even been with the M9 itself, but definitely in early days, I found this out the hard way. Certain effects where you were non-time based things like the overdrive emulations or things like that. I'm like, why am I getting this kind of weird phasey flangering thing? That's why. It's just that you're kind of have two slightly out of whack signals being mixed together. I can't say that I have optimization tips, but that's definitely a thing that you'll likely run into unless you generally keep to the time-based effects. And it's unfortunately something that's not avoidable in something that doesn't have a true kill dry or 100% wet capability.
If you have something like an Eventide H9, which doesn't have any analog dry, but does have the option for a kill dry, that's fine in that you're replacing the dry signal with the analog dry that's feeding the input of the mixer. Whereas on the M9, there isn't an option for a kill dry, and so you're sort of duplicating two dry signals, one that is slightly latent from the original analog dry signal that's on the input of the mixer.
Yeah, having no dry signal coming through the pedal will make the pedal far more usable than something where you can't avoid that. Now, that said, there still can be problems, and it's going to vary from pedal to pedal on this, and it's definitely going to vary based on the effect that you're using. It could be things like distortion algorithms, compressor algorithms, things that don't intentionally introduce any additional delay. You can still run into that, but it depends on how much latency there is and what the effect is. There isn't one answer for that, but I guess it's something that people should keep in mind if you're trying to run it in parallel. Not everything is going to work.
Yeah.
Now, unless the safe zone is things like delay and reverb, because you're intentionally delaying the signal.
I don't know if you guys would agree or not, but I think from my tests as well, if you're going to run anything in parallel, the biggest return on investment is delay and reverb. That's where you're going to notice the biggest difference as far as clarity in your signal, transient notes, all that, the textures and everything coming through. As soon as you run delay and reverb in parallel, you get a very quick return on what it feels like to run effects in parallel. And then you can add in chorus or pitch or whatever else you might want to add in. But those are the ones that I've found make the biggest difference if you want to get the feel for that kind of rig.